Welcome back into the Capitol Hoop Caucus on ESPN 630. That is Troy Halliburton, and that is Isaac Gajikameris. I'm Wardell McCabe. Thanks again for joining us. As we noted at the top of the show, the FIBA AmeriCup has run its course, and EuroBasket is now in its tournament stage. So we feel like it'd be an appropriate time to check in on how some of the Wizards roster has fared in international play, while also just giving a general update on our takes, too, on both competitions. So our thoughts, our takeaways, and such. Let's first start with the AmeriCup. For those who weren't aware, the Wizards' own Kyshawn George suited up for Team Canada, who finished fourth in the AmeriCup following an 85-90 loss to Team USA in the third-place game. George had 14 points in that game, shooting 4 for 7 from the field, and 5 for 5 from the line. He also averaged 13.5 points in the entire tournament, which actually led Team Canada. So, Isaac, what were your takeaways on how George played in the AmeriCup?
This was the perfect tune-up for him. I think it expanded on how he played at Summer League, and I've always loved these international tournaments, especially for the young guys that actually do participate. And I'll go on another rant about that. But with Kyshawn participating, it really showed he's like, hey, I am a huge big-time scorer. I'm more than just a pick-and-pop shooter. I can attack. I can slash. It showed a little more attributes on what he can bring to this Wizards team, and to be honest, it made me really excited, especially him making the All-Star team at the end of the AmeriCup tournament.
All right, well, you made a quick note there on people wanting to participate in this. What are some of the criticisms that people are having of this tournament?
Team USA does not have any active G League players or active Division I college players representing from Team USA. This is possibly the D team roster, with the exception of Langston Galloway.
Jerry and Grant, hold up. Former
Jerry,
Wizard.
Former Wizard, DMV legend, loving the death, has not been in the NBA in X amount of years.
Yeah, but I think there's a real criticism there. A lot of people are questioning the level of competition for this tournament. It is definitely lacking the star power that its counterpart over the ocean is having in EuroBasket, right? Some of the very best players in the world are playing in EuroBasket. So with that in mind, Troy, I do have to ask, is the hype real with Kyshawn George here and how he's been playing?
Well, everything is relative. So, I think that we're looking at the AmeriCup like we have to view it for what it is, which is the mid-major of FIBA basketball tournaments over the course of the summer. And to me, I'm really looking at the way that Kyshawn played, and I'm happy with, some of the things with his growth and development. But the biggest thing is, how is that going to translate to his role with the Wizards? And I'm not really sure as to how much we can actually glean from that. But, it's good. Like, I'd rather have him go out there and play well than to have him go out there and not play well.
Right.
So, as far as, options go, like, I'll take option one all day, every day.
Oh, for sure. I think one thing to take away from that, too, is at times, obviously, I mentioned he was the leading scorer for Team Canada, but he really kind of was the go-to guy for them in closing stretches of the games. And in instances like against Team USA, he came up a little bit short, but it's interesting to see him in that dynamic, to fulfill that role for a team. So, Isaac, knowing that there is a question about competition level in mind, and is there still something that we can take away from Kyshawn playing in the role that he did? Do we think that it could translate? If so, what are the things that he was able to do that makes you think that way?
I think it can. I know with Troy looking like, can it translate to what the Wizards are scheming? I think it can in certain situations. If, you need him to get a bucket and you want him to have – if you need him to get a bucket for your team, you want him to have that confidence, say, hey, we're giving you the green light to do it. This was an excellent way to see if he can even do that, if you want to even possibly attempt to give him that green light. And for a player like that, you want him to already have that confidence to say, okay, maybe that's not your role right now, but when the time comes, are you going to be ready? And it definitely showed that Kyshawn can be ready for that, some type of a role for the Wizards. Is that going to be his role moving forward? Absolutely not. But I can bet you that the Wizards brass probably looked at it like, okay, we see some things a little different than maybe we can possibly put him in certain situations.
All right. Well, I have a note here that probably affirms two fronts. Not only that he played well, but also does kind of affirm that the level of competition wasn't really that crazy. He was named to the AmeriCup All-Star 5. So that is very impressive. You do, as Troy said, you wanted to play well versus not playing well. But let's just name the other players who were on the All-Star starting 5 there. Javonte Smith of the U.S., Juan Fernandez of Argentina, Iago Santos of Brazil, and then Bruno Caboclo of Brazil. So, just so that way everyone is aware of who the other best players of this tournament was. So we do have to keep it our reality a little bit in check here. But even still, let's talk about the tournament as a whole. Troy, what were some of your takeaways from the entire tournament?
Well, I was just random. You mentioned the name Bruno Caboclo, and I think of our guy, a friend of the podcast, Fran Fraschilla. His famous catchphrase, 2 years away from 2 years away. But that was like 8 years ago. So,
but it happened.
It happened.
Prophecy fulfilled.
Prophecy. Yeah. So Bruno Caboclo, he finally turned into a player 8 years later, and did it in a tournament that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But shout out to him. I think that the biggest takeaway is the fact that, Kyshawn George did exactly what he should have done when he played in a tournament where he's the only guy who's going to be playing NBA rotational minutes next season.
All right, and Isaac?
I'm tired. I've had friends that played in the AmeriCup, and although it's great for TV, it's not a serious tournament. For in the Americas as a whole, because there was not that many NBA guys that were playing. Like, I think the other notable NBA guy that was playing was in Puerto Rico. Jose Alvarado was playing. But I'm so annoyed with not bringing at least not even like your most promising young guys. If the tournament is not that serious, I still think this any type of international competition is great for young pros or great high level young players, and especially for Team USA. So I'm just a little disappointed with the plethora of players that you can get. I'm just disappointed with the roster turnout, and it showed what this roster turnout, the best they could do is possibly a bronze.
Yeah, I mean, let's keep the talent in mind of who wants to participate, and let's move on over to the sister tournament in EuroBasket across the Atlantic. The Wizards had 3 players playing in this tournament. Let's first start with Team France. Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr are playing for Team France. Let me first ask Isaac, what have you thought of Bilal Coulibaly so far?
He started out hot, but it started fizzling out. I wanted Bilal to more, take more of that ownership role like Kyshawn and really, really expand his game, really kind of show out saying, hey, I can step into this role. But he kind of fell back a little bit. Obviously, there was little injuries and matchups that were going along in there that kind of affected that. But I was a little initially I was super excited, but toward the end I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, I'm going to say I was definitely a little bit disappointed with the fact that I wanted to see Bilal, really hone in on his playmaking skills. And, I think that the more basketball that I get to see from Bilal, I think that it's going to be really easy to kind of peg him into what type of player he's going to be. Like, I think that he's going to be a 3-and-D type of player who, really is going to have to work on his offensive game in order to be an effective player in the NBA. And so, I just really haven't seen the growth and development from him that I would like to see for a player heading into year 3. And this is like the big year where teams are counting on these players going into their third year to make a leap in their talent level.
Oh, for sure. And I don't think you're alone in that. I think everyone was yearning for him to display some form of step forward through this tournament, especially because the level of play is so much higher. And so you're seeing some of the very best that the NBA has to offer and some of the very best that the EuroLeague has to offer. And so he's playing against real competition, and he is really failing to show his ability to grow as a playmaker, and he's struggling. And I think that that's probably a little worrisome. The reason why that year 3 is a big one for everyone is, this is really when that contract starts to get into conversation. And that's, if you're a team like the Wizards and you have as much money as they have being freed up next offseason, they're really going to be looking to save as much as possible and really only spend in the ways that really contribute to winning. And so this is definitely something that, the team as the franchise as a whole is going to be really focusing in on.
Yeah, I mean, Bilal Coulibaly is really on his Jonathan Kuminga track right now, as far as like just really just putting his like future earning power like in major jeopardy, because it's like really hard to identify who he is as a basketball player. And so, Yeah, you said like the reason why the third year is so important is because that fourth year comes up, and so that's when you got to start making decisions on contracts. So, yeah, I think Bilal really needs to kind of he needs to come into this season and really lock in as a potential All NBA type of defender. Or really, kind of work on that jump shot so that he can get his 3-point percentage up to, almost league average. Like if he can do at least one of those two things, then I think that would be a major step forward for him in his game. And if he's not able to do one of those two things, then I would feel sorry for his agent right now.
Yep, me too. But obviously, with Coulibaly, that's been a story that Wizards fans have been wanting to watch. Another one, though, there's probably a bigger story for the Wizards, and that's Alex Sarr. He hasn't played since the second game of the group stages as he's been dealing with a calf injury, which has now actually ruled him out for the remainder of EuroBasket. Troy, how worried should fans be with this injury that he's dealing with?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it like a 6 as far as being worried, only because it's of the specific injury, because it's a calf injury. And what we've seen over the last season in the NBA with all of these star players like tearing their ACLs, and we saw Tyrese Halliburton go out there and play on an injured calf and then tear his ACL. I think that this is an injury that it definitely can lead to overcompensation to other parts of your lower extremities. And so the fact that, they shut him down, I think is a great, not a great sign, because, obviously if it was a good sign, he'd be out there playing. But I think that it's great that they're like not playing around with this. They're like, let's shut him down and, see if they can't get him back on the court before Wizards training camp starts.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. And Wizards officials they have noted that they do expect him to be ready to play by the start of the upcoming season, but it is absolutely something to keep track of and be very wary of because,
do not rush him back at all.
No, he lost a lot of really great talent, which we'll be talking about later in the show, and how that's affected the upcoming season. But, Isaac, let's talk about the 2 games that he did play in. Before he went down with injury, what did you see on the floor from Sarr?
A little more confidence. I'm kind of happy that, kind of expanded. I think he took whatever, last time he played publicly, I'm not sure about the outside runs that he was doing. I think he took that to heart and kind of improved a little bit in this play. I mean, obviously there was a little coming down, trying to fight with minutes with Yabusele, because Yabuselli's been playing excellent for France for a little bit. But I'm happy with Sarr with what we did get to see. They're showing a little bit of improvement. Obviously, there's a lot more room to go, but it showed that, hey, the jury's not out on just him just yet.
All right, cool. Well, let's see how he progresses when he comes back. But as I mentioned, it's not just 2 Wizards in this tournament. There's also a third, and he's suiting up for Team Serbia. That's right. Tristan Vukcevic has been a power forward for their team. Isaac, what have you thought of Vukcevic?
I mean, he's playing all right. I just think I'm a little more disappointed, too, because in the preliminary, he was showing out a little bit. But then again, what are you going to do when you're playing alongside one of the best players in the world? Like, you just got to just get where you can get where you can fit in. And he's doing the best he can to fit in. I feel like his role for Serbia is not what exactly we would look for him in DC. It's more of like, hey, you're here to help rebound for Jokic. And so he doesn't get tired. And if you need to score, but we're good. like we're good here.
One of is an interesting choice of words.
He said hit a rebound like he did the pregame development coach. Right?
Yeah, you're literally out there just like, all right, yeah, we got you here. Just
damn, tell him go get the Gatorade.
Literally, you act like Randy Moss with Julian Edelman. Go get my Gatorade, make my tub 140. Don't forget about it.
Hey man, don't do that. He's been playing a lot of minutes too, so let's cool off my guy a little bit. But no, I think that's what's interesting. My only takeaway really for Team Serbia is they're almost everyone is playing the exact same volume of minutes. Like Jokic is arguably the best player, if not one of the best players in the world, and he's kind of being limited to 18 minutes a game, which isn't super out of the ordinary for these international tournaments. They do tend to even it out, but almost literally everyone on the Serbian roster is at 15 minutes a game. It's pretty interesting to see that. But let me also ask, we're talking a little bit about Serbia here. Let's also ask and open up the floor to just general takeaways of the EuroBasket tournament as well. Troy?
Yeah, I actually got a chance to watch that Serbia-Turkey game, which was a great game featuring baby Joker versus real Joker. And, Alperen Sengun, he looked like a guy who is ready to – he already took that, that third-year leap last year and made himself an all-star. I really think that, I've been impressed with how he's played and, really being the guy. Like, and that's something that I want to see translate to his NBA career. And also shout out to his teammate over there playing for Turkey, got the naturalized citizen, Shane Larkin. He's one of those guys where I think that, NBA teams have been, inquiring about him over the last couple of years. And he's a guy who said, you know what, I think I'm good over here, getting my Euros and competing at a high level. Like, I think that he's really carved out a name for himself on the international basketball scene, so much so that, he's actually turning down NBA offers because of how much of a star he is abroad.
Yeah, that was my exact same takeaway. I had no idea that Shane Larkin was suiting up for Team Turkey. And so, I tried to do a deep dive on this. Is he of Turkish descent?
Not at all.
Not at all. So,
Not at all.
Really interesting there. He became a citizen in 2020. Then he had his citizenship revoked in 2022 or 2023 because he didn't play for the national team for one game. So they revoked the citizenship and then they gave it back to him in November of last year. So very confusing how that's gone for him. But he's averaging a little under 11 points a game and 5 assists per game. So he's balling out. So credit to Shane Larkin.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly.
I know they could take your passport.
Yeah,
you got to have a bad
away.
game. They like, yo, that's some diplomacy tomfoolery.
I know. It's an interesting sort of track with the history of Shane Larkin and Turkey. But Isaac, what are your takeaways from the tournament?
Other than Shane Larkin balling out and doing his thing, shout out to him. He was a great college player in the U.S. and was a Hall of Fame of Barry Larkin. Got to mention that. But Portugal really impressed me. They're not a basketball country, but Neemias Queta has been hooping. He's been trying to put a little something on for Portugal. I just wish he had more of a supporting cast, but hey, that's been impressive seeing some of the European countries that don't maybe have that now are having some NBA development or guys that are representing them. It's fun to see, but Portugal is one of the teams that's been surprising me a lot because they're not known as a basketball nation, and they're out here competing and putting up some numbers against some of these basketball-heavy traditional teams. So I'm excited. It's been a very exciting tournament.
Yeah, one that is more of a basketball nation though, and I'll shout out my own heritage here. Is Team Italy. They are so old. They've got some old guys on that squad, and they're kind of being led by Danilo Gallinari. So shout out to him. He just won the the Puerto Rican championship, so he's carrying that momentum over. Anyways, let us know at home what you all think of the EuroBasket and AmeriCup, and also let us know if you think the Kyshawn George hype is real, and who are some other players you didn't expect to see in either of these tournaments that you're now seeing play. Let us know in the comment section below or on X or Instagram or by texting to the show at 833-377-6630 or even clicking message the show in the episode description of this podcast. All right, we're going to take a break again. And when you get back, you're going to hear us talk about the question or grading the off seasons of the Atlantic Division. This is the Capital Hoop Caucus on ESPN 630 and the ESPN 630 app.